Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of my podcast, Soul Talk and Psychic Advice. Today, we're talking about a relationship pattern that is incredibly common among healers, empaths, coaches, therapists, caregivers, psychics, and deeply compassionate people. It's called the caretaker or rescuer style. Now, before we begin, I want to be clear. There's nothing wrong with being caring. There's nothing wrong with being compassionate. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to help people. That's a good thing. But the problem is when you are a caretaker, we know about caretakers getting sick. They get overextended. The rescuer, they're rescuing everybody but themselves. So, in fact, many of the most beautiful qualities in humanity come from our ability to support one another. The problem begins when helping becomes rescuing, when caring becomes caring, when supporting becomes saving, when someone else's well being becomes more important than your own. And a lot of empaths can relate to this. They simply believe that they're loving people, right? Many rescuers don't realize that they're rescuers. But underneath, the helping is often a deeper need. A need to feel valuable. Yes, I'm a rescuer in recovery. A need to feel needed, a need to feel worthy, a need to feel safe. And this is the thing about needing to feel needed or worthy, especially if you grew up where you didn't feel valued or loved or cared for, or you only got attention when you helped. You're going to become a rescuer. And over time, the rescuer can become exhausted, resentful, burned out, and disconnected from themselves. It will happen. It's just a matter of time. If you ever found yourself attracting people who need fixing, feeling responsible for other people's healing, or becoming emotionally drained from constantly helping, today's episode is for you. Because healing the rescuer pattern isn't about becoming less caring. It's about learning how to care without losing yourself. And sadly, a lot of people are rescuing to the point of losing themselves or wanting to avoid their own pain. What is the caretaker or rescuer style? The caretaker or rescuer style is a relationship pattern where your identity becomes connected to helping others. You may feel drawn toward people who are struggling, people who are wounded, people who need guidance, people who need support, people who need saving. You naturally step into the role of helper, advisor, fixer, problem solver, emotional support system, right? Everybody goes to you. They can call you at any hour, but can you call them at any hour? You become the person everyone leans on, especially in the family. There's usually a fixer in the family that handles everything. Even if there's other siblings, there's the fixer, the rescuer who's taking care of the parents and keeping everything together, giving money. There's usually one that's doing a lot of that. The challenge is that the relationship often becomes unbalanced. I would say just about 99% of the time it becomes unbalanced. You give, others receive. You support, others depend. You carry, others unload. And eventually the relationship revolves around their needs rather than mutual connection. The difference between helping and rescuing. A lot of people don't know the difference. This distinction is one of the most important concepts in today's episode. Helping says, I believe you are capable. Rescuing says, I don't believe you can handle this without me. Somewhere subconsciously you're saying that, even if on the surface you're like, I just want to help, I just want to make it easier for you. Really, deep down inside, and I realize this, I was saying, wow, do I think this person is capable of taking care of themselves? It's like a subtle form of arrogance, and I know that's a hard thing to say, but when I was thinking this person's incapable, it's like I was putting them down subconsciously. And maybe they weren't really capable, but they needed to learn it because if I wasn't alive, what would they do? So, helping empowers. Rescuing creates dependency. Helping others support. Or rescuing takes responsibility. Helping respects another person's journey. Rescuing interferes with it. When we're rescuing, we often step in before people have a chance to learn their own lessons. Yes. Yes, sometimes we are interfering with people learning their own lessons, and then it'll repeat for them because they haven't learned the lesson. They've been rescued or saved, and then you have to step in again. And it's like, why am I stepping in over and over? Because we've interfered, so we get a lesson out of it. Two, to stop interfering because it's just repeating. The cycle's repeating, and you can't constantly step in and fix somebody else's life. We remove consequences often when we're rescuing. We solve problems they haven't asked us to solve. We carry emotional burdens that aren't ours. And although it may feel loving, it often prevents genuine growth. It does. And that's something to look at. You know, when we rescue, we prevent our growth of learning how not to, and then the other person learning the lessons that they need to learn that got them into a situation. Where the rescuer pattern begins. This is important. Most rescuers weren't born rescuers. They became rescuers. Many developed this pattern during childhood. Perhaps you grew up in a family where you became responsible for other people's emotions. Maybe you had a parent who struggled emotionally. Perhaps there was addiction, illness, instability, or trauma. You may have learned very early, I need to take care of everyone. I need to keep the peace. I need to help. I need to fix problems. My value comes from being useful. My needs come last. Over time, helping becomes an identity. You become the responsible one, the strong one, the reliable one, the one who always knows what to do, the one who never asks for help. And because these patterns develop so early, they often feel normal. And I've seen it in myself, but I didn't get it from while my mother was alive. It was really after she passed. I've seen it with clients who are just so exhausted. The hidden belief beneath rescuing. At the core of many rescuer patterns is a hidden belief. I am valuable when I am helping. You know, the people, I just want to help. I like being there for people. Just being a good person, a good Christian, and being spiritual. Or, I earn love through service. Or, people need me. And this belief can deeply become intertwined with self-worth. You feel good when you're helping. You feel useful, needed, important, valuable. But when nobody needs you, you may feel uncomfortable. You may feel lost. You may even feel unimportant. This is why many rescuers unconsciously attract people who need fixing. And so if you're someone who says, why do I keep on attracting a romantic partner who needs help, who needs to work on themselves, who needs fixing, you might be a rescuer. Even if you don't want to be to your romantic partner, but if you are to other people in your life, friends, family members, etc., doing even above and beyond at work, you're going to attract a romantic partner that way because it's showing up as a mirror to show you what you need to work on. Those relationships reinforce identity they built around being needed. That's why you attract that type of partner, those type of friends, and you're like, where is someone who I'm equally yoked with? But in a strange way, you're equally yoked. You're equally yoked with someone who needs fixing because you're a rescuer. So you have to heal the rescue pattern to get someone who doesn't need to be fixed or rescued. Why rescuers attract people who need saving. One of the most fascinating aspects of this pattern is that rescuers often attract people who are struggling. This isn't accidental. Relationships often form around complementary wounds. People don't realize that. The rescuer feels valuable helping. The struggling person receives support. Initially, it feels like a perfect match, but over time, problems emerge. The rescuer becomes exhausted. The other person becomes dependent. The relationship becomes imbalanced. The rescuer the rescuer starts feeling overwhelmed. You will feel overwhelmed. Yes, you will. Yet they continue giving because stopping feels uncomfortable. This cycle can continue for years. And when a person stops rescuing, they're called selfish. And a rescuer or a fixer does not want to be called selfish, but it's a form of manipulation to call someone selfish when they stop helping you. Difficulty allowing others to solve their own problems. One of the biggest challenges for rescuers is watching people struggle. You may immediately think, how can I help? How can I fix this? How can I make this easier? How can I save them from pain? Especially if you're an empath and you can't stand to see people struggle. But growth often requires struggle. Learning often requires making mistakes. We all have to make mistakes. I know people don't want to make mistakes, but that's not the real world. We all make mistakes. Healing often requires personal responsibility. When we constantly step in, we may unintentionally rob people of opportunities to develop resilience, confidence, and self-trust. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is trust that another person is capable, right? Stop thinking that they're not capable. Even if you have zoned in on something that you think is a weakness, it doesn't mean that they're not capable, and maybe it's time for them to learn to be capable. Even when they're uncomfortable, even when they're struggling, even when we want to intervene, the most loving thing we can do is trust that another person is capable. Rescuing in romantic relationships, because a lot of people do, especially women, this pattern frequently shows up in romantic relationships because what is the phrase? What you don't address or what you don't heal will show up in your romantic relationships, and that's a fact. And that's why people go, why can't I find the right person? More inner work has to be done. You can be a nice, loving, kind person, but if you're a fixer, healer, rescuer, you got to have some balance and boundaries. You may find yourself attracted to emotionally unavailable partners, partners with addiction issues, partners who are struggling financially, partners with significant emotional wounds, partners who need constant support. And part of you may believe, if I love them enough, they'll heal. Boy, yeah. If I stay long enough, they'll change. No. If I help enough, things will improve. No. But relationships cannot thrive when one person becomes a therapist, coach, parent, or savior. Healthy relationships require mutual responsibility, mutual growth, mutual support, not one person carrying both people. And this happens so often. And then people go, I just want someone to love me. But are you letting yourself be loved? If you're attracting someone to fix or heal, or you'll love them through their pain, are you allowing yourself to be loved? And a lot of people go, well, people struggling need love too. Yes, but they also have to work on themselves too. And some of them won't. They just won't. And they're like, just love me and accept me as I am, but not if it's going to bring you down. The burnout cycle of overgiving, and a lot of people have this problem. Eventually, most rescuers experience burnout. You will become emotionally exhausted, physically depleted, spiritually drained. Yes, you will become resentful. I see that so much in people. Overwhelmed, unappreciated, and yet you may continue giving. Why? Because giving has become familiar. A lot of people want that approval from their family, and they're like, well, does my family see all that I do? And it's like, yeah, they see it, but they just expect that of you because that's what you've been doing. So they're not going to come and praise you and tell you you're great because you've been doing it all along. So it's become normal. Does my partner see it? You've been doing it all along. They see it, but they're expecting it. That's all they've ever seen. When your friendships work everywhere, if you are the fixer, the rescuer, they're going to let you have at it. They're not going to stop you. That's what you have to remember because receiving is feeling uncomfortable. So you won't even receive a compliment. Or you're doing so great or you're so wonderful. You're just going to be giving and giving. Many rescuers have spent so much time supporting others that they don't know how to receive support themselves. This creates a painful cycle. The more you give, the more depleted you become. Yes, you're pouring from an empty cup. The more depleted you become, the harder it becomes to care for yourself. The rescuer pattern in the nervous system. As a somatic practitioner and a psychic and a coach, I want to emphasize that rescuing is often a nervous system adaptation. Your body learned that helping created safety, perhaps helping reduce conflict, perhaps helping earned approval, perhaps helping created connection. Your nervous system began associating worth with usefulness. As a result, you may feel anxious when you're not helping because helping is getting a fix. When you're not getting a fix, you could become restless, anxious. You may even feel guilty resting. You may feel responsible for everyone's well-being. Healing involves teaching your nervous system that you are valuable even when you're not fixing, solving, or saving. The rescuer pattern in healers, empaths, and spiritual people. Yes. This pattern is especially common among spiritually sensitive individuals. Because many people come to spirituality to heal, but they're not healing. They're sometimes just putting layers on top of it. Well, I'm spiritual, I'm a good person. But spirituality is about self-help, self-growth, and healing. Many empaths naturally feel other people's pain. Many healers genuinely want to reduce suffering. Yes, and we will blame ourselves when we can't reduce it. Many psychics, coaches, and practitioners feel called to help. These gifts are beautiful, but without boundaries, they become burdens. You may find yourself taking responsibility for clients' outcomes, absorbing others' emotions, feeling guilty when people struggle, overextending yourself, giving free support constantly. When I first started, outing myself as a psychic, everybody wanted free readings, and one day I had to say no, and people got mad, and it's like, I can't be an ear, especially when they wanted me to be an ear and read for them, and when I would want to say something, it's like, oh, gotta go, I'm busy. You learn real quick, to set boundaries when you realize, okay, I could be used if I'm not careful. You got to charge for spiritual work. A lot of people go, you shouldn't charge for spiritual work because it's a gift. Everything's a gift. Singing's a gift. Acting, being a doctor's a gift. Working at Starbucks is a gift. Everything is a gift. So everything should just be free then. And we're not in that system. So, when you're trying to heal everyone, at some point the healer becomes wounded by their own overgiving. True healing work requires remembering you can guide, you can support, you can teach, you can witness, but you cannot do someone else's healing for them. That is so important to understand. Healing the rescuer pattern. Let's talk about the steps to healing this. Let's talk about healing. Number 1, separate support from responsibility. Ask yourself, am I supporting this person or am I taking responsibility for them? The answer can be incredibly revealing. You need to know if you're supporting or taking responsibility. Number 2, let people experience consequences. They'll survive. Growth often requires consequences. Trust that people can learn from their experiences. Practice receiving. Allow others to help you. Accept support, accept care, accept kindness. Receiving is a healing practice. Number 4, build self-worth beyond helping. Yes, be more than a helper. Your value does not come from being needed. Your value does not come from fixing people. Your value exists independent of what you do for others. 5, learn to witness without saving. That's a hard one for us fixers and rescuers in recovery. Overgivers, people pleasers. Yes. One of the most advanced forms of compassion is simply being present, listening, witnessing, holding space without trying to take away someone's journey. And it's interesting because I've had people hint to me, like, I need money for this, I need money for that. And I used to be the giver. But now I'm 55 and I was looking at my retirement fund and it isn't nowhere where it should be because I've had debt, because I've had bankruptcies in the past and I've made good income, but I've helped more than anything. And I remember one person who I know asked, and I thought, wow, well, they have a 401k, cash in that. I want to cash in that. And it's like they have more money saved than what I do. And when you learn to say no, people are going to be shocked because they were counting on your yes because you've been a yes for so long. But as I get older, and you realize this, you'll look up and it's like, what are my finances? Have I saved enough? Do I have enough emergency fund? I had to tuck money so far away that I can't touch it unless something extreme happens because I wasn't good at saving money. And you just have to look at, have you taken care of your own needs before you start helping other people? I remember years ago I posted on Facebook, and I probably post this again. I said, have you helped someone knowing, with their bills, knowing that you didn't have enough to cover your own? And too many people said yes. And I thought, oh my God. So you only help from your overflow. You do not help from, I need this money, but you're triggered and you just feel like you need to help. And now I just say no, and people come to me all the time. They're like, well, you're single. And they think when you're single, well, you have more money. Not necessarily because you pay more taxes and you have still, life is still costly. Rent's still costly. It isn't cheaper for a single person. And so I'm saying all this stuff because I feel like you need to hear this. You need to hear that I'm not someone just talking at you. I've been through all of these things. And that means I've attracted clients who have been through it because we will attract what we need to learn. And, I've done the work, but it's interesting. I've only done one little thing for someone this year. I bought a relative a tool. It's only like $250. And I bought it because I said, you know what, you're going to start your own business with this. And they've been working the tool and they were sending me stuff that they made with it. And they're like, look at this. And they're so excited. But I've helped no one else. And I almost got caught up in that because I said, I'm 55. I can't just give out money. I can do volunteer work. I do donate like food and, when or anything for homeless, I will do because they are homeless. And you become homeless for many reasons. Illness, it's too expensive, domestic violence, a divorce, something major happens. So anything homeless, I'm down for. I'm going to help. But, just like friends, family that I know can swing it, no, I'm not going to do it. And and now I got to have an MRI because my back went out and they want to double check everything and DVT because of symptoms. And what are MRIs? A couple of grand. And I said, if I didn't have the money, who would I be able to go to for help? And so I want you to ask yourself, you've helped people, but who can you go to for help? Do you know anybody that will help you? That will say, well, at least here's $100 towards something or something like that. They're probably like, no. I've seen people tell me they can't help me years ago and they go on vacation, do this, that, and the other. And then when they need help, they come to me. It's like, look, I couldn't come to you. You can't come to me. And sometimes you have to be like that. That's how you break the cycle. And so I want you to ask yourself, do you have a savings? A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't have an emergency fund of $1,000. Do you have any money saved before you go lending money, giving money? Because if you don't, you really don't have the money to loan. And you don't need to feel guilty if you go shopping or go to the casino or whatever, because if you don't have extra money saved, you should not be loaning money. You're not in a position to loan money no matter what. Maybe you could throw 20 bucks at somebody for some groceries or something, but if you don't have any savings, stop giving money, stop loaning money, stop offering up everything. And I know that, like, growing up poor, it's like, well, you help people out because we know what it's like to be poor, we know what it's like to struggle, so you help people out. But you can help people out, but not to your detriment. Don't do it towards your detriment, because emergencies happen, people are getting laid off, things happen. What are you going to do? Somebody, you help them with their rent. Are they going to let you stay with them if you lose your place, if you get laid off? No. So you have to be it's not even selfish. I don't even want to call it that. You have to be responsible. It's not selfishness, it's being responsible to yourself. And when I learned that, because I was in my 30s with really no savings, I was in my 30s with really nothing. And it's like, we ain't doing that no more, because there's nobody that I can go to if something happens to me. So I'm going to close this out, but I want you to think about why this stuff is important. It's not about being a good person, needing love, needing approval. You will destroy yourself if you keep on rescuing. Closing thoughts. If you recognize yourself in today's episode, I want you to know this. Your desire to help is not the problem. Your compassion is not the problem. Your heart is not the problem. The issue is believing that your worth depends on how much you can carry for other people. You were never meant to save anyone. You were never meant to heal anyone. You were never meant to carry everyone's pain. Healers, coaches, psychics, talking to you. You are everyone, talking to everyone. You are allowed to support others without sacrificing yourself. Yes, 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 you are. You cannot sacrifice yourself. You're allowed to care without caring. You're allowed to love without rescuing. You're allowed to step back and trust that others are capable of walking their own path. And perhaps most importantly, you're worthy of love, rest, support, and care, even when you're not helping anyone. Because your value is not found in what you do. Your value is found in who you are. Thank you for joining me today. Because, yeah, the last relative that I gave all that money to for childcare, when they have plenty of money that they didn't tell me about, that was a lesson for me. That was the ass kicking that I need, and it kicked my ass because it was 50 grand over 3 years. Sometimes we need our own ass kicked so that we stop hurting ourselves. And since that person can't use me, do you think I hear from them? Do you think they've checked in on me? No. So think about it. Think about, if you didn't give to this person, would they still care about you? Sadly, you find out sometimes no, because some people are wired for using and taking, even in our own family systems. So remember, your value is not found in what you do. Your value is found in who you are. So I want to thank you for listening, because the healthiest relationships are not built on rescuing. So until next time, be gentle with yourself, honor your energy, trust your inner wisdom. Okay? And so, healthy relationships are built on two people walking beside one another, supporting each other without carrying each other. So again, thank you for listening. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next episode.